Hey, everybody, and welcome back to For the Booze.
For the Booze.
For the Booze.
We're back, and we have some intense ship to talk about today.
Oh, some ship?
Yeah.
All the ship?
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of ship we got to talk about today. We're going to be talking about the RMS Queen Mary.
Ooh.
Yeah, the RMS. I hope you guys are enjoying the new and improved. Is it improved?
We don't know yet.
Yeah. But the new version. I don't know what to call it. Whatever. Enjoy the show. But anyways, we are going to talk about the RMS Queen Mary. And this has actually been a topic that I avoided for a long time.
It's a big one.
It's not. This has nothing to do with how big of a story it is for me. It's because of all we know about this because of YouTube, basically.
Right.
That's where we first learned about it. I'm not saying like we're new to it or anything, but you've seen and heard the majority of it because of YouTube. And unfortunately, every person who is not a valid or whatever. All the fakers covered it. So I never wanted to cover it just because to me, it's almost like it's got the wrong people around it, in my opinion.
I agree. All the people who do a lot of the, like we like to say, the for entertainment only.
Yes, the
type
Omar
channels,
Goshes, the Twin Paranormals.
They cover
Sam
this
McColby's.
place so much, but it's such an intriguing place to me that I hate that it's got that stipulation around it of those are the people who visit, you know?
It seems to me like it really gained popularity around COVID.
Yeah.
There's a reason that I didn't know about until now, and you're going to find out as well.
Okay.
But there's a reason why everybody started paying to go there.
Okay.
And we'll find out.
Gotcha. All right.
But we'll go ahead and get into this. There is quite a bit of history around this, and I didn't even put all of it in here.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's a ton. In the late 1920s, the Cunard Line faced an aging fleet of ocean liners, which included I think it's Mauritania, and growing competition from rival companies. Of particular concern was the French line, which had several prominent vessels and would later build the Normandy, a fast ocean liner that some considered the most elegant to ever sail.
Wow. When was the Titanic? Wasn't that like...
That's way before this.
No, I know, but like
1905.
I just like big ships back in the day.
Well, big ships.
Kind of sketchy, you know?
Well, yeah, but the only thing that made the Titanic sketchy was that they hit an iceberg.
Well, I know that, but...
I mean, something that would probably take out a boat now.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But ships were all the rage because that was the only real way to travel back then. Now, Cunard's answer was the Queen Mary and sister ship, the Queen Elizabeth. Both were, and they are named after who you think they are.
Okay.
Now, both were designed to be large, luxurious, and powerful. Construction of the Queen Mary began in 1930. The work was halted for some 2 years because of the Great Depression. Because, everybody's poor.
That's fair. Yeah.
Pretty depressing. In 1934, the ocean liner was launched, at which time it was christened by its namesake, who was Queen Mary, and work was completed 2 years later. And at 1,019.5 feet, or 311 meters for our European listeners, the Queen Mary was Britain's first entry into the 1,000-foot category of ships.
Wow.
It had a gross weight of 81,237 pounds. That's big.
That's a lot.
And it was built to carry 2,038 passengers, which we will far exceed that later. The ship was never as elegant as the Normandy and had a somewhat slower cruising speed at 28.5 knots for the Queen Mary, while the French rival was at 29, so it was only half a knot. And I'm not a sailor. I have no idea what that breaks down to. But its luck was much better. The Normandy would actually end up burning at the dock in New York in February of 1942 while being refitted as a troop ship for the World War II.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sad.
All these big ships would eventually be refitted and reconfigured for the war.
Commandeered for the war.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a way to get a lot of people,
right,
over there quickly.
And you can have like living quarters and things like that. It's like a rolling city, pretty much.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Now, on May 27th, 1936, the Queen Mary embarked on its maiden voyage, traveling from Southampton, England to New York City with a stop in Cherbourg, France. I'm sorry, French people. I probably said that wrong.
I want to go on that trip.
Well, you probably can now.
That's super cool.
The voyage only took about 5 days. And noted for its comfort and elegance, the ship soon became popular with celebrities, politicians, and other prominent people. Of course.
Yeah.
Its many amenities included 2 swimming pools, a gymnasium, a library, and a hospital. Decorated in the Art Deco style, which pretty much everything was back then, it also featured striking murals and paintings. In addition, the Queen Mary became known for its speed. Now, in 1936 to 1937, and again in 1938 to 1952, the ship held the blue ribbon for fastest average speed while crossing the Atlantic.
Wow. Vroom, vroom.
It's quick.
Wow.
It's a very fast ship, and it ends up breaking its own record later on.
But it's crazy because it's so big.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge.
Yeah, and it breaks its own record.
Wow.
There's so much interesting stuff around this ship. The stuff you hear on YouTube is they're just telling you little things.
A roundabout.
There's so much.
Cool.
When World War II started in September 1939, the Queen Mary was en route to New York City. And after completing the voyage, the liner suspended its commercial service and was refitted as a troop ship, as they all were. Mm-hmm. Reportedly the fastest and largest such vessel during the war, the Queen Mary could reach a top speed of 32.5 knots, which was faster than many German U-boat torpedoes.
What?
And was capable of transporting more than 15,000 soldiers at a time.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
this is why
God.
they would use the ships. They could pack soldiers on them and get them over there.
Wow.
Now, on one trip in 1943, it set a record for carrying the most passengers, 16,683 people. 943 were crew and 15,740 troops.
Goodness.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
They were probably pooping off the side.
Ugh.
Nowhere to go. During World War II, the Queen Mary earned the nickname Gray Ghost, which I found very interesting.
Ooh.
Because of its later history.
Yeah.
A reference to its speed and battleship gray color. Adolf Hitler allegedly offered a sizable reward to any German U-boat commander who sank the Queen Mary. However, according to reports, the ship was never even fired at.
Wow.
So Gray Ghost makes sense.
Yep.
In October 1942, the ship was involved in a fatal accident near Ireland when it collided with the escort ship, the HMS Curacoa. Now, the Queen Mary was some 20 times larger. And I did read things that said this was like, what do they call it? It's like the escort. It was like the escort boat.
Oh, okay.
So it was like escorting them in or out or whatever. It collided, and then it sliced through the cruiser, which sank, and nearly 340 crew members on the Curacoa were killed.
Oh, man.
Now, I read conflicting reports. There are conflicting reports where there were some people who said that it took like 3 days for them to finally go out and search for survivors. Mm-hmm. But then there was another report that said that the captain of either the Queen Mary or the Curacoa who lived said it was instantly. And nobody really knows for sure. Maybe
they meant like it took 3 days while looking for survivors?
No, it mean like 3 days before they were even like, we should go look for bodies.
Oh, that's terrible. Why?
And this right here is the one major event that people try to tie to paranormal activity on the boat.
Yeah. Well, I figured.
Because while it didn't happen on the boat, the boat went through it and killed 340 people.
Right.
So it makes sense. Mm. Now, later that year in December, Queen Mary carried 10,389 soldiers and 950 crew. During this trip, on the 11th of December, while 700 miles from Scotland during a strong wind, she was suddenly broadsided on her starboard side by a rogue wave that might have reached a height of 92 feet.
Holy wave.
Same year,
Wow.
Dr. Norval Carter, part of the 110th Station Hospital on board at the time, wrote in a letter that at one point the Queen Mary, quote, damn near capsized. One moment the top deck was at its usual height, and then swoom, down, over, and forward she would pitch. It was calculated later that the ship rolled 52 degrees and would have capsized had she rolled another 3 degrees.
Ooh.
So the ship did almost go down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is a ginormous wave.
92 feet. I don't think a lot of people can really conceptualize that. That's bigger than the buildings we live in.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Oh, my God.
That is huge. During the war, Queen Mary carried British Prime Minister Winston Churchill across the Atlantic 3 times for meetings with fellow Allied forces officials. There is a very important thing that happens on this boat that I never learned in school. That I find extremely interesting. Now, he was listed on the passenger manifest as Colonel Warden, so of course he didn't go by his name.
Right.
On one crossing in 1943, Churchill and his staff planned the Normandy invasion, and he actually signed the D-Day Declaration aboard on the ship.
Wow.
Churchill later stated that the Queens challenged the fury of Hitlerism in the Battle of the Atlantic. Without their aid, the day of final victory must unquestionably have been postponed.
Wow.
So without the Queen Mary, the end of the war would have never happened.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
But that's a claim.
Yeah, that's crazy.
After the war, the Queen Mary resumed its career as a passenger liner. By the end of the war, the Queen Mary had transported some 810,000 troops.
Whoa. Almost a million.
Almost a million people it brought.
Wow.
And see, this is things that I never learned in school.
Right. No.
I never knew anything about these these facts.
This is related to history, not just like,
history.
Things we learned on the
because
show on
we
YouTube.
learned all about World War II in high school.
In school, yeah, absolutely.
But I don't ever remember them bringing up the Queen Mary.
No.
I don't know if it's because it's more prominent to maybe British history.
I don't know.
It's crazy. A British boat.
Yeah.
After delivering war brides to Canada, Queen Mary made her fastest ever crossing, returning in early 1946 to Southampton in only 3 days, 22 hours and 42 minutes at an average speed of 31.9 knots. From September 1946 to July 1947, Queen Mary was refitted for passenger service, adding air conditioning and upgrading her berth configuration to 711 first class, formerly called cabin class, 707 cabin class, formerly tourist class, and 577 tourist class, formerly third class passengers.
Wow.
Air conditioning in 1947.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, buddy. Following the refit, Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth dominated the transatlantic passenger trade as Cunard White Star's 2-ship weekly express service through the latter half of the 1940s and well into the 1950s. They proved highly profitable for Cunard as the company was renamed on the 31st December 1949. It enjoyed huge popularity until the 1960s when airplane travel led to dwindling interest in the transatlantic liners. This is where the downfall, well, maybe not the downfall, but this is where more people started flying because you could get there quicker because not everybody wanted to go on a cruise.
And I get that. However, I've flown and we've been on a cruise. Yeah. I quite enjoy the cruise travel.
Because it's much more leisurely, but
it's like a hotel, but you're getting to your destination while at a hotel already.
But you have to think about it in this way. Like, that's for people who want that.
Right.
What about the people who had a deadline, needed to be there at a specific time, and weren't necessarily looking for the vacation aspect of it?
No, and I do get that. So I do.
People started to fly.
But I'm just saying, I quite enjoy cruises.
Well, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, "Yeah, I went on a cruise. It was terrible." I mean, we went on a cruise. It ended terrible, but
yeah,
it was a great experience.
It was. The cruise itself was
great.
We
rode right through a hurricane.
We sure did.
Right on the tail end of the worst hurricane I actually ever lived through.
Yep. And then we got back to Florida and had to go home and board up.
Yeah.
Right after, because we rode right by it in the middle of the ocean.
It was crazy. I don't really remember any of it, but
yeah, I know. You slept through like the entire thing, and I was awake all night long.
I could sleep through nuclear bomb. The Queen Mary tried to combat the decline by adding new routes, including a Mediterranean cruise. However, in 1966, Cunard announced that it was selling the ship. The following year, the city of Long Beach, California, bought the Queen Mary for $3.45 million, planning to turn it into a hotel and tourist attraction.
That's it?
Yeah. I mean, this is also back in 1966.
60s, yeah.
So $3.45 million in 66 is probably honestly like $200 million now. It's ridiculous. The inflation is crazy.
I know.
In October 1967, the Queen Mary departed for Long Beach on its last voyage. Too big to pass through the Panama Canal, the ocean liner had to sail around Cape Horn, southern Chile. After a 39-day trip, it arrived in December of that year. The ship then underwent extensive renovations that cost an estimated $31 million. In 1971, the liner began hosting tours, and by year's end, a portion of its Museum of the Sea was open to the public. So it's also got a museum.
Yeah.
Queen Mary's Hotel began accepting guests the following year, and several restaurants were added. In 1983, Howard Hughes' Spruce Goose, the world's largest flying boat, was installed next to the Queen Mary as an additional attraction. However, the plane would ultimately end up being moved to Oregon in 1992.
The Spruce Goose.
Yeah.
That made me chuckle.
Operating the Queen Mary proved to be very challenging, and on several occasions, Long Beach struggled to find firms willing to assume control, including maintenance. The Queen Mary closed in 1992, though it reopened the following year. This is going to be a tragic reoccurrence over and over. In 2016, Urban Commons, a real estate company, bought the lease, which extended to the year 2082 out of default. Now, the lease obligated them to perform the ship's daily upkeep and long-term projects, which is going to bite them in the butt. Carnival Cruise took over the entire dome and made efficiency improvements under their management. The operator generated funds through the events, the hotel bookings, and passenger fees from the nearby Carnival Cruise Terminal, which was the largest source. So Carnival, like Carnival Cruises, have or had a stake in this.
Well, I mean, they'd kind of be the right people to kind of
not really
get on board and like fix things.
I thought about that the first time I read it too, but not really, because at this point it's just a hotel on the water.
Right. But they know how to like work on ships, and if they're doing
well, we're about to find out like what they thought they were going to do with it.
Okay.
Now, Urban Commons had plans to extensively renovate the liner and update the adjacent 45 acres of parking lot with a boutique hotel, restaurants, a marina, an amphitheater, jogging trails, bike paths, and possibly even a huge Ferris wheel, all at a cost of up to $250 million.
Ooh.
So they basically wanted to turn this into an amusement park.
Yeah.
In July 2017, while making repairs to a bathroom, workers rediscovered the ship's forward gear room, which had once controlled the ship's 16-ton anchors. The room was apparently sealed up during the 1960s conversion and was forgotten for decades. They ended up going on to sell that stuff and making a bunch of money.
I bet. Wow.
A report on the ship's condition was also issued that year. The report observed that not only the hull, but also the supports for a raised exhibition area within the ship were corroding, and that the ship's deteriorating condition left areas such as the engine room vulnerable to flooding. Repair costs were estimated at close to $300 million.
Goodness.
Yep.
What?
More than their little floating amusement park. In November 2016, the city of Long Beach had to put $23 million toward addressing the Queen Mary's most vital repairs.
Wow. And that was only the most important things.
Yeah, I mean, that's
23 mil.
Such a small part of it.
Wow.
John Kessler, I don't know how to say it. I think it's Kessler, Economic and Property Development Director for Long Beach, said, quote, "We have a timeline in which the engineers believe they can complete those immediate projects. These are major challenges we can only address over time. It can't all be done at once," unquote.
Yeah, I'm sure. It sounds like there was a lot of stuff that needed
but
to be done.
they have to get done.
Right.
Because it's at risk of sinking.
Mm.
Political leaders in Scotland, birthplace of Queen Mary, called for the UK Prime Minister, Theresa May, to pressure the American government to fund full repair of the liner in 2017. Keep y'all business to yourself. But it's because it was birthed as in Britain. You know,
Right.
it's a British ship.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it was bought, and yes, it's here. However,
but it
there's
reflects.
so much historical ties.
And it reflects. I feel like they feel like it's a reflection of them as well.
Yeah. But if you feel that strongly and it's already here,
buy it,
we've
fix
already
it.
bought it,
Buy
or
it back.
put a stake in it and help,
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Brits ain't doing that. In May 2019, Urban Commons formed Eagle Hospitality Real Estate Trust with the goal of generating up to $566 million for the Queen Mary, along with its portfolio of 12 other hotel properties that it owns or manages. In December of the same year, it was announced that the city was reviewing the finances of Urban Commons to determine whether the city of Long Beach had, quote, received all revenues owed. In October 2019, the city of Long Beach, same year, the city of Long Beach warned Urban Commons that the company was failing to uphold its commitment to maintain and repair Queen Mary and that it was accordingly in danger of defaulting on its 66-year lease agreement.
That is a long lease agreement.
Because it was a default.
No, and I do get that, but that is a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, had it been a lucrative business decision, it would be great. Urban Commons responded with an updated plan for repairs. This is kind of funny. Including the removal of lifeboats at a cost of between $5 and $7 million and a new paintwork. That's what they did. They took off the lifeboats and painted it and was like, good to go.
What? That's not going to fix flooding issues.
Yeah.
What?
Now, the ship also closed in 2020 to 2022 during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Boo.
After the operator filed for bankruptcy, the city took control of the ship in 2021, and it was determined that the Queen Mary needed extensive and costly repairs.
Yeah, because paint isn't going to fix stuff.
Well, this is where I say, this is why I think there was such a focus on the Queen Mary during the pandemic, because if you go back and you watch all those videos, they happen almost all during the pandemic.
During that time.
And I think it was either the company that bought it or the city trying to get revenue.
Some kind of revenue.
To pay for the repairs.
Right.
So technically, and this was the last thing I could find about it, technically the boat is still under disrepair and still needs to be fixed and is still at risk of sinking.
That's crazy. Because I think too, especially during COVID times and stuff, these teams would go out there and they'd rent it and it's all theirs. So they're still in line with COVID protocols and things like that, but they're still able to make money.
Oh, and another thing is from my understanding, it is not cheap to rent this place out for a paranormal investigation.
Yeah, I highly doubt that it's feasible for most people.
but it says it's closed. And it said that almost every one of those years that we talked about, it shut down, reopened, shut down, reopened. Mm-hmm. But if I remember correctly, a lot of those videos that we did watch, people were staying in those rooms.
Right.
Are they doing that illegally?
Are they just renting them out to make a little more cash flow, but they're not supposed to be?
It's closed though.
Yeah.
If it's deemed to be a danger, I can see them getting away with letting people on for the night to investigate, I don't know, more so than I can. How do you rent out rooms in that situation?
Right.
We're also going to find out there's more claims of paranormal activity here than the videos have said to us. And I don't know.
I've always been kind of on the fence about this place, so I'm very interested to see where this goes.
I agree with that. There was a lot more history, though. I left out a lot of little things, so... a lot of that came from Britannica.com. So if you look up this, the ship, you can find a lot more stuff about it. I did add in as much as I could.
I love that bit of history that I never knew about it. Because, I mean, this place has always intrigued me.
Well, it's a cool
For
story.
sure. Yeah.
Because it started as an ocean liner.
Yeah.
It became a troop transportation vessel. It survived the war, even in a crash and almost capsizing.
Broke its own records.
Its own records, yep. And then went back to being a luxury cruise liner. And then even today, you can still go walk aboard. I would love to maybe one day cover the battleship in Battleship Cove over in Fall River.
Yep.
Because that's a cool boat, too. These old boats have a lot of history. But there's a lot of urban legend around this boat, but there's also, come to find out, there's a lot of true stories from this boat. Like things that we weren't necessarily sure about in the past because of, honestly, who we got the information from.
Yeah.
A lot of them do turn out to be true. And not only true, but documentedly true. Like they've been documented. People's names, like actual names of people who were on the ship.
Super cool.
But there's legends that go along with them as well.
Yeah.
And nobody is 100% sure which stories are accurate.
Well, I'm excited to hear about some.
It's a lot. But we are going to get to them. But for the moment, this ship's going to sail on out to some ads.
And now, Boost Crew, back to the show.
So we have heard the history. We haven't said this in a while.
And
now time for the mystery. So there is a lot of history. I encourage you that, if you're a listener of this show, look up the stuff that we talk about, because there usually is more behind it. We can it's an hour show. We try to cram in as much as we can, but there is always more. And there's always just stuff that I don't put in here just because it's not a big deal. But a lot of stuff happened on this freaking boat, man.
That's cool.
Super cool. A lot of stuff. Sorry, I had to adjust my mic. I didn't want to blow out anybody's ears. But now we're going to get into the paranormal side. And there's a lot of paranormal here. There's way more paranormal here than I expected.
Okay. Oh, well, I love paranormal, so I am looking forward to this.
I hope so. That's why we do this show. Internationally recognized, the historic floating hotel and museum attract thousands of visitors annually. It has also attracted several unearthly guests over the years as well. Some say the Queen Mary is one of the most haunted places in the world, with as many as 150 known spirits lurking upon the ship.
I mean, a lot of places claim that, so we'll see.
Yeah, and a lot of places claim to be the most haunted place in the world. I think we've probably covered 30
that
have said the same thing.
The most haunted in the United States.
The most haunted in California. While she may be docked in Long Beach, California since her retirement in 1967, Mary's reputation as a ghost ship has grown exponentially within the past 40 years. A luxury liner as fine as any ship built in the docks of Great Britain, the Queen Mary's accommodations mean that not even the dead wish to leave. Now, the most well-known stories obviously come from Stateroom B340. Before I get into this, there are no accounts of demonic in this room, okay?
Okay.
So
all the demon things that we've seen, you mean?
Yeah, and I have to throw that out there because that is what gave me pause as far as like me wanting to do this location.
Right.
I mean, we watched a video, Sam and Comey, where they staged a seance to reach evil entities.
Yeah.
The stateroom was a problem long before the Queen Mary opened as a hotel. In 1948, a British third-class passenger, Walter J. Adamson, passed away in the room under circumstances that have been lost to time. Now, that is a documented death in that room.
That's ominous.
However, another theory claims that staff locked a man in his third-class room after he murdered 2 women in the 1960s. During the night, he began beating on the door, screaming to the guard outside that something was in the room with him. When they opened the door in the morning, they found his bloody, mangled body. Now, he had been ripped apart, and when the ship was retired in 1967, 3 third-class rooms were combined to create a larger hotel room, B340. Not long after, guests began reporting odd things. But we have one documented.
How did he get so mangled and bloody if they locked him in there by himself?
But that's just a story.
Yeah.
There's no documentation.
Right.
That's just, it could be true, but it might not be true.
I want to know if there's a window that you can get in.
Well, I want to know, was there ever anything documented where women were murdered?
Right.
Because I feel like that would be a pretty big tell right there.
Oh, 100%. Because, like,
I
you're on a
couldn't find
boat, like, if it's out on a adventure and somebody gets murdered, like, there's only one thing you can really do with the person who murdered them.
But I couldn't find that either. Like, I couldn't find any real-life documentation that said that women were murdered on the boat.
Okay. That's fair.
People definitely died on the boat, but I don't know if that actually happened.
Okay.
Later, in 1966, a woman staying in the room reported that she was woken up when the bed covers were pulled off of her, and she saw a man standing at the foot of her bed. She screamed and rang for the steward, but the man apparently vanished into thin air. The ship received so many negative reports throughout the 1970s that B340 was closed to the public for over 30 years.
Wow.
And it was reopened as a haunted attraction in 2018, though the key comes with a fierce warning. Even the current captain is claimed to be too scared to enter the room.
Wow. Okay.
Again, though, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Because I could only find that in story form. Now, Halloween 1967, the Queen has just departed from England and is on her way to Long Beach, California. By the time she gets to her destination in early December, she'll have completed her final voyage. Left on the 31st of October, 31 years after her maiden voyage. Left for her final resting place, trading in the cold Atlantic waters and gray English skies for the California coast and never-ending sunlight. California, where the hauntings would begin. Members of the Orange County Society of Psychics gathered aboard the Queen Mary in 1985 to hold a series of seances. Paranormal experts joined them in investigating the abandoned ocean liner, anchored now for nearly 20 years. Amongst the 49 confirmed deaths and the ones relegated to hearsay, most of the passengers that perished did so by natural means: heart attacks, strokes, old age. But the number of deaths over the course of 3 decades is enough alone to draw attention.
Yeah, I bet.
I wonder, because this is going to depend on where everybody sits in their belief system.
Mm-hmm.
A group of psychics and investigators got on the boat and started holding seances. Now, if you believe, you believe. So could this have been something that started to awaken something?
Oh, that's a good question.
Again, just depends on your belief system.
Also, the demolition of the 3 rooms to build a bigger room.
Yeah. I mean, that coincides with the timing of the earlier hauntings for sure.
Right. So does that start to stir something up, and it just kind of takes a while for everything else? Because, I mean, they talk about, doing renovations and things like that always kind of upset spirits that may be there. Yeah. So
because you're stirring it up.
Yeah.
In the years since, guests have reported hearing someone knocking on the door in the middle of the night and seeing bathroom lights mysteriously turn on. Even the hotel's maids have made reports of bathroom water running when no one had stayed in the room for days, and on one occasion of the bed covers being pulled off right after the bed had been made. The room was closed to guests for many years, but it has since reopened for anyone looking for a paranormal experience.
I'm sorry. If I'm in the room and I'm like a maid taking care of a room, being like doing housekeeper duties and all, and I make the bed, I turn around and then turn back around and the covers are like being ripped off the bed.
Yeah, I'm not saying there.
Nope. No, thank you. I'm out.
Now, there's also the Myrtania room. In 1989, 2 women were sent to clean this lounge for a VIP reception. When they entered the room, they found a guest sitting silently in a chair in the middle of the dance floor. When a third woman came in to help with the cleaning, she remarked that the guest was staring, and she asked him to move. As the employee started to call security, the guest faded right into thin air right in front of them, something all 3 women reported seeing at the same time.
Oh.
All 3 of them.
That's pretty
Ominous
and creepy.
I mean, they all made the same account
exact
of
claim.
the exact same thing,
Yeah.
which honestly gives a little more
Credibility.
Credibility to the story, because one person seeing something can be making it up, but
3 people have the exact same story.
3 people could make it up, but you got to get everybody on board with lying.
Yeah.
The Mayfair room was once the ship's beauty salon, but now it's used as office space for hotel employees. In 2001, a member of the accounting staff came in early to work, at 5:30 a.m. to be exact.
Hey, it's what time I go to work.
Well, watch out for the ghosts. And simply felt like something was just off. She went about her office tasks before sitting down at her desk and feeling unusually cold. Later, she felt someone brush up against the back of her chair, but no one was there. Just minutes after, the woman saw a transparent figure in white walk across the room and pass through the door. As the story goes, the employee grabbed her keys and fled the room until her co-workers arrived.
I bet.
The first and second class swimming pools are 2 of the more popular spots for the Queen Mary's otherworldly guests.
This is definitely something we've heard before, the pool rooms are quite active.
Yeah, but I heard the pool room was. I didn't know there was a second one.
Yeah, I didn't either. But now we know.
Yeah. Though neither is utilized today for their original purpose, spirits seemingly are not aware of that. The first class swimming pool, now abandoned,
Oh, that's why.
was once the epitome of luxury, with an illuminated fountain, mother of pearl ceiling, and elaborate mosaic tiles. It sounds amazing.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
The pool is no longer in use because of California code issues, but that doesn't stop it from being one of the hotbeds of paranormal activity on the ship. People have reported seeing a number of apparitions here, including a woman in a tennis skirt walking downstairs and disappearing behind a pillar. Call me, girl, you sound hot. A woman in an old wedding gown next to the pool with a little boy in a suit, and a cloud of steam appearing out of nowhere along with a little girl in a blue and white dress who disappears in an instant. Maybe it's gold and white.
Oh, we just talked about this earlier today.
Why do you think we talked about that earlier today?
Because it was on a video.
Because I thought about this.
Okay. Yeah, does everybody remember the whole thing years ago where it was like
the dress
and people evidently saw it in different colors, either like
Welcome
black and
to
blue
the dress podcast,
or white and gold. Like this came up earlier for us, and it's funny.
When I was writing this, it reminded me of that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I worked it into our day before we came down here. In the second class pool room, the spirit of another little girl named Jackie has often been seen and heard. Allegedly, the unfortunate girl drowned in the pool during the ship's sailing days and reputedly refused to move on, as her voice and laughter have been captured here. However, author and paranormal investigator Cher Garman, points out that there are no known drownings to have ever occurred on the ship, although she says that she believes Jackie is there.
I wonder if it was like maybe in the way earlier days. I mean, this has been around since 1920.
But they still would have, 30s. It was built in the 30s.
That's right.
But there still would have been reports of people dying. I mean, this isn't Titanic days.
But we've found that over the years that like report keeping back in the day wasn't all the best.
It was terrible.
So,
I mean, it's possible, but I still feel like there would have been reports of deaths, especially of children.
I mean, and the ship was quite crucial in, what am I trying to say?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Like immediately after the ship started sailing, like it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a huge deal.
Maybe like the record keeping would.
I feel like it would have been better than the norm.
Up, yeah.
Yeah, because it was like a pillar of travel at the time.
Yeah.
But it also could have went the other way. They could have not reported it because they were like, well, we don't want people not to sail.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's true.
But there are no reports of anybody drowning on the ship ever.
Okay.
There's more to the ship than just vacationer areas, though. And they, too, have stories. Like boiler room number 4. Several people have reported seeing a little girl in this area, sometimes sucking her thumb and sometimes with a doll in her hand.
Weird.
If that's not enough, there's hatch door number 13. This hatch door is known as Shaft Alley. That sounds bad.
It's
It's right up there with Priest Hole.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
Go down a Priest Hole with Shaft Alley. And it was the site of a gruesome accident that saw a crewman crushed to death. One night in 1966, the watertight doors in the engine and boiler rooms were ordered to be closed. About 5 minutes later, an 18-year-old crew member from Yorkshire was found crushed in the door of hatch 13, trapped with his arms pinned to his side. Although the man was freed and carried to the hospital ward, it was too late. He showed signs of crushing injury on his arms, chest, and pelvis, and was bleeding from his nose. He was injected with morphine but died shortly after.
yeah, I'm sure he was literally crushed. Ugh.
Yeah. He was, and this is a reported death.
Yeah.
This is a real death.
Like crew incidents and accidents happened
yeah.
quite often.
His ghost is regularly seen around the area now, with people reporting the sound of someone running behind them and whistling. Sounds like me chasing you through the house.
I know.
Others have possibly made contact with the doomed crewmen, noticing spots of grease that look like fingerprints on their face.
Ooh, don't touch me.
Fine.
Sir.
Fine. I won't.
Not you.
Some claim to have seen a figure of a bearded man in blue coveralls that looks just like the man who died out of the corner of their eye. And several others have said they saw an engineer wandering the hallways asking if guests had seen his wrench. But when they went back to find him, he had disappeared.
Have you seen my wrench?
He's from Yorkshire.
Shh. He's in overalls.
Have you seen me wrench, mate? Sorry.
Oh, that was really bad.
Other phenomena throughout the ship are the sounds of distant knocks, doors slamming, and high-pitched squeals, drastic temperature changes, and the aromas of smells long past. And we know that every YouTuber trying to make a name for themselves in the paranormal world has been there. Sam and Colby, Overnight, Twin Paranormal, Oh My Gosh TV, which is honestly why we felt the need to see if anyone else had anything to say on the topic. This is what we found. And these are accounts of people who have actually been there.
Okay.
They've gone on the ship.
So these are our online TripAdvisor review type
But
things?
yeah, they're not from TripAdvisor. These were just wherever I could find people.
Okay.
But these are people who have been on the ship that aren't YouTubers, that aren't, trying to make up stories.
Okay.
Now, the first story says, I had a few experiences years ago when I toured the ship. We were viewing the swimming pool, which is very empty now and used to be a sleeping area of sorts for troops. I was startled to see some shadows diving into where the water would be from a height I could guess was a diving board.
What?
We also went to a darkened room. The tour guy said was used to be a dressing room for entertainment shows the ship would put on back in the day. I immediately felt like I was going to faint and that my, quote, battery drained. The guide said that happens often there. We also went to a shower area the guide said was been reported to be a portal. I don't really buy into the portal thing too much, but I didn't feel anything at all. I did get some very spooky pictures of faces in that area. I was very young and they scared the shit out of me, so I deleted them. This was before cell phone cameras. I constantly wish I would have kept them. I sometimes wonder if the phenomena knows that we will delete photos before sharing or actually influence us to do it somehow.
Oh,
That's
interesting take.
Yes. Now, how about you read the next one? You want to read the next one?
Okay.
You haven't read anything in a while.
I know.
Read this. Go ahead.
All right. So this story says, quote, I had a very odd experience on the Queen Mary. Did an impromptu tour of the boat. There was a fleet. I almost said fleet because we're talking about ships. A flea market in the area next to her.
That'd have been a cool idea to call it, though. A fleet market.
A fleet market?
Yeah, that would have made sense.
Oh, sweet. And with the admission, you could walk around the boat. My friend walked around looking at the pictures, walking through some of the hallways and either side deck and then the engine rooms. Going up one side of the engine room on a thin metal ladder, I got very discombobulated. Vertigo. I don't know what. I felt sort of dizzy since getting on the ship, but this was sudden, very intense, and I actually clawed at the railing to hold on as soon as I lost my balance and kneeled toward the side. While the Queen Mary is floating, technically, she doesn't move that much or pitch and roll at all. It was the strangest thing. I had never felt anything like it since. Not long after touring the boat, my friend and I parted ways, and I went home and collapsed into an all-encompassing nap for about 2 hours. I was suddenly exhausted, like I had all my energy had been zapped. I texted my friend when I woke up and found out she had the same exhaustion nap experience.
Yeah, so it seems like that's a pretty common occurrence there.
That like body draining.
Yeah.
Like
just getting drained in general.
Right.
You know,
and
like,
if nobody's ever like had that happen, it's hard to explain, but it's like you go on a 10-mile run and it's how you feel after, but not running.
Exactly. Like you just went through it.
Yeah.
Here, why don't you read this one too? Read this next one. This is a pretty decent one.
Okay. I did a paranormal investigation of Queen Mary in 2009. I was able to take a tour to the bottom of the ship and picked up EVPs of men speaking in German. Men who were powwows.
POWs.
POWs.
Prisoners of war. Powwow.
Powwows. I said it and I was like, wait,
Yeah.
no. Okay. So men who were POWs from World War II who had been transported across the country in the ship's keel.
I have no idea what the keel is.
I don't either.
I'm not a ship guy.
Yeah, no. The entire time, from the moment I set foot aboard that ship, I had experiences, including a full apparition encounter not 5 minutes after I boarded the ship. I've investigated well over 100 locations in my paranormal work, and without a debt to the Queen Mary.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, my bad. And without a doubt, Queen Mary is the most haunted place I have ever investigated or encountered.
So, yeah, EVPs and even
apparitions.
More astounding, though, the EVPs are speaking in German.
Right. So
which
a
makes
totally
sense.
other language. If you're there and you know everybody you're with speaks English or any other language that's not German.
It speaks for the time that it was in operation.
Oh, absolutely.
During the war, they would have been German speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, story number 4. As a child around 10 years old, I visited for an event. Of course, my mom told me to go run off and play. I played a little with a boy around the same age for hours, running everywhere, playing hide and seek. I'd used the bathroom, and he said he'd wait outside. I came out, and he was literally nowhere to be found. Now, I wonder if I imagined him as he was wearing suspenders-style clothes. But who knows?
It's like the story of the ball.
Yeah.
From one of the last episode. Was the last episode or one before that?
Ooh, I don't remember, but
I don't remember either, but like he was a kid and he went and played and like touched the actual ball.
Yep.
But like
that
now,
was the last episode. That was
one of our Patreon episodes.
Oh. If you want to hear what we're talking about, join our Patreon so you can hear the Behind the Booze podcast.
That's right. We
Yes.
talk about ghost stories. We read on the internet.
That's right.
And
But
it's
yes,
a fun time.
That is what that is just like. So they could have actually been playing with the ghost.
Right. Oh, man.
Creepy.
So creepy.
Now, I visited the Queen Mary recently and
You did?
Yeah.
So the next story.
Of course I did. In my dreams. And did an in-depth haunted tour where we got to see things that usual tourists don't get to see. Now, the most haunted room on the ship is B340. There are a lot of stories surrounding this room, and a lot of them are cheesy and unbelievable. I couldn't agree more. Now, while my group was in room B340, there was a girl that was getting really into it. And she had one of those ghost meters. I think he means like an EMF reader.
Yeah.
And she and 2 other people went into the closet together, and they came out screaming and saying, hell no, and laughing. Were they playing like Spin the Bottle?
That'd be kind of weird to play on like a ghost tour thing, you know?
I'd play Spin the Bottle with you. I think it's only going to land on you.
Hopefully.
On the way of storming out, a lamp fell off a table and smashed onto the floor. Nobody claimed to bump into it, and we were rushed out of the room. I recommend the tour. It's very interesting.
Ooh.
So basically, they ran out of the room. Nobody claims to have hit it, but it
happened after they caught whatever it was they encountered in the closet.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And, I mean, that is the Queen Mary. I'm going to see if I can find any EVPs. I mean, I'm sure I can, but I'm also going to be very selective where I pick them from.
Right.
just because there's so many
for entertainment purposes only type things out there.
I just, it's kind of hard.
It's unfortunate too, because we watch a lot of paranormal stuff, and we'll, especially stuff on YouTube, yes, but like we'll start to watch something and we're like, man, we really like this channel, or we really like this group, and over time we just kind of pick up on certain few things that were just kind of make us question it in a sense, and it's really unfortunate because we thoroughly enjoy.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'll be
stuff.
honest with all the listeners. Before we started doing this show, I was way more of a believer of everybody.
I tend to kind of agree. I tend to kind of agree. The show has made me a little more skeptical. I wouldn't say it was like 100% hands down everything is haunted believer before, but I do believe in the paranormal because I've had things of personal experience happen to me.
Yeah.
But doing
agree.
this show has made me question a lot more things than I did before.
Okay, so the first one I found is it's from Ghost Watch Paranormal. It's on Facebook.
Okay.
A fun EVP we captured at the Queen Mary. Some people hear a little girl, some an older woman. If you had to be locked down for 30 days in a paranormal location, where would that be? Okay.
I don't know.
But
anywhere, really. I'd be okay with that.
Let's see what they say.
Okay.
Yeah, Madison, in session, so everyone's quiet. Hey guys. Yeah, Madison, in session, so everyone's quiet. Hey guys.
I hear it.
I do hear it. I hear a voice. I don't know what it's saying, but it does sound more little girlish than old lady to me.
I also very much hear a little girl.
Yeah. Not like a super little girl, probably, I don't know, like 10 to 12. So it's not like a tiny little girl voice to me, but it's definitely not an old lady.
Yeah, I don't know where they would get old lady. Who would hear an old lady from that?
I don't know. Maybe they were picking up on one of the other people talking, maybe? I don't know.
I guess, but I don't know.
I don't know what it says.
I don't either.
But I definitely heard it.
This is from a YouTube channel called Creepy Kingdom. It says, the Queen Mary's resident para-investigator, Matthew Schultz, shares some EVP electronic voice phenomenon recordings during the Queen Mary's paranormal investigation tour. So I guess this is maybe like a little collection. This one's actually a couple minutes long, so
Okay, we'll see.
let's check this one out.
And we're using the speaker here, matter of fact, and I asked the spirits, do you have something you want to say to my friends? Do you have a message for them? So we go through the whole process, and when the playback occurs during the silent time, we hear some whispering. So I boost up the volume, and the answer to the question, do you have something you want to say, is, look at me. Just like that. Well, everybody freaks out, but I'm excited. I'm really excited because we've had many captures of spirit voices wanting to be acknowledged. Can you see me? Can you hear me? I'm here. That kind of thing. And what I love most is when evidence connects in some fashion or another. Do you have a message that you'd like to give these people in the room here before we go? Do you have something you'd like to say? I asked the last question of the night, do you have something you want to say to my friends? They'd love to hear from you. And right above the ladies' heads, right up here, we started hearing knocking. Knocking in the rhythm of a heartbeat. Just like that. And so I jumped off my box down here and I ran out and I took a look right over here. And guess what I saw? You know the rest of the story, right? Nothing. While I was outside and the door was closed, everybody in the group heard a male voice emanate from the ladies' heads right above here. Remember, I was over here. A male voice that said, get out, get out. Just like that. So you'll hear their response, and I come back and oblivious to what just happened, and it's very, very exciting. So you'll be able to hear the system, how it works. You'll hear the repeat.
Oh my God. That happens, we are here now.
Oh, no. The party's just starting. Where are you going? So the first get out you should be able to hear. The second get out competes with the replay a little bit. If you listen carefully, you'll be able to hear it. All right, so here we go. These people would love to hear from you. Do you have some kind of a message or something that you'd like to say to them before we go? So this is me getting up. These people would love to hear from you. Do you have some kind of message or something that you'd like to say to them before we go? Here we go. Get ready. Right now. One more.
Wow.
Holy crap. That was cool.
Those, all right, so if you're not understanding, they're playing EVPs for a group of people who are investigating on the boat.
Yep. And they're kind of just retelling their experience and replaying
And they're playing the evidence that they have captured. And, dude, those are very clear.
Super clear. Are you kidding me?
And
even without them saying what that said, I would have been able to tell you what that said.
For sure, because they were so clear.
Yeah. I'd love to see their video evidence along with that, like to line up and, see that no one was saying anything and things like that. But they definitely sounded like EVPs to me.
Yeah, they're definitely EVPs. Electronic voice phenomena, for those of you that don't know. But this is where it's, I have to ask you a question, babe. And the question is it real? Do you think that the luxurious cruise liner known as the Queen Mary is on it?
Yes, I do. Just trying to throw you off there a little bit. I do. I mean, it was involved in war, had soldiers. It's been around for a very, very long time. And, there was accidents and all kinds of things that could have happened on this ship, documented or not, legend or not. I think that people who go there and get the evidence that they get, I mean, we just had a little bit of it there. I encourage everyone to go find evidence themselves, not YouTube evidence, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, no, you could watch YouTube stuff. Just be weary of who you're watching.
Yeah, that's true too. But yes, I do think this place is haunted. Okay. What about you, babe?
I also do think something is on the ship. I don't think it's demonic, or I don't think anything weird like that. But no. I think that there's a lot of potential for something to be there. It's been in, a wreck that killed over 300 people. Mm-hmm. It's been in war. It's seen people die of all kinds of, natural and unnatural deaths on the boat. So, yeah, I mean, as far as because I'm always like, well, I could see how, this would be no different. This place is obviously had enough stuff happen where something could be on there. It makes sense.
I think the fact that it's still open today, people can go. I mean, not.
I don't know
not
if it
open,
is,
but
I don't know if it is.
Right. So it's kind of in limbo right now. But I don't know. I think this place is very, very, very intriguing.
I mean, I think when you Google it, it says open.
I am glad to know a lot more of the history today. So thank you for that.
We should drive over there and look at it.
I know. That would be super cool. We're not that far.
Yeah. It's like a half a day drive.
Should we go visit the Queen Mary?
Yeah, we should.
Oh, my God.
But until then, where can they find us?
They can find us on Instagram at forthebooze_podcast and on Facebook at forthebooze.
You can find us on Twitter, X. I hate doing that, but I cannot call it X for some reason.
It's weird.
For the Booze, YouTube, which we are going to be filming after this. That will be coming out shortly. But if you want to listen to the podcast there, you can do that as well. And anywhere you think you want to find us, we're there. And don't forget, 5 stars, rate and review. We say this every week, but we do really need them. iTunes is definitely the place. We get it. It sucks to have to open your phone and do that. But if you help us out, it takes 30 seconds. Just, just say, hey, the stars are really what counts. So if you could do that, that'd be great.
It helps out a lot. It really does.
Anywhere you listen. And big shout out, of course, to our Patreons, Joe Mattern and Teresa O'Donnell. You guys are amazing for supporting the show week in and week out.
And we will be recording another episode for you guys right after this.
So, and if you're interested in a whole separate podcast that we do, join us on the Patreon. Any tier, $5 and up, will get you extra podcasts every week.
That's right.
And I guess this is where we're going to end it. So go ahead and end it, babe.
Well, thank you, everybody, so much for listening. And we will see you on the next one.
Bye. This ship is serious. Ugh.